Hello and welcome to the Woman to Woman show here on Confident Women Ireland's YouTube channel with me, Roisin Ni Chleirigh. Our relationship with our food matters and is important for our health. On this episode, we are talking and chatting about menopause, female health and the nutrition with one of Ireland's leading nutritionists, Linda Murry from Beoga Nutrition, which is based in Kilkenny in the southeast of Ireland. Says becoming aware of what we eat, how we eat and when we eat is very much part of our menopause and female health self-care and our long-term health as well. As women, our health matters. Our hormone health matters through perimenopause and menopause. Our diet and nutrition matters, and it can impact and also help us in our self-management and menopause symptoms. Food should be nutritious, enjoyable, and tasty, says my guest, Linda Murry, co-founder of Beoga Nutrition with Jenny White. You are very, very welcome to Confident Women Ireland's YouTube channel.
Thanks, Roisin. Thanks for having me.
Linda, I met you around 2017 and 2018 in my role as a radio producer and presenter on two of my radio programs, which you were guest on the two shows. And you taught me everything that I've just mentioned in my intro, that we have to be careful or be aware of what we eat, when we eat, and how we eat. This is about menopause and perimenopause and menopause and how nutrition and the food that we put into our bodies can help manage our menopause symptoms. It may not take it away, but it can help manage our menopause symptoms. So what is your advice to women transitioning through the perimenopause and menopause on nutrition?
Yeah, I think, Roisin, and thank you for the intro. I think it's very important for people to realize that food can be a very positive contributor to life, not just menopause, but like females have a hormonal cycle from once they get their first period right up until postmenopause, and every week within that or every month within that, that things are going to be different. And what we eat, and as you said, how we're eating will have an impact on that at all stages. But it also, I sometimes fear that people have this very negative relationship with food, and they feel it's all very much, oh, I must be good all the time and I can't be having bad foods all the time, as opposed to thinking about the benefits you can gain from food and how you can feel better and how you can, because I know a huge amount of Jenny and I would work with a lot of women with the digestive issues and with female health issues, and Jenny particularly will work with people with very low moods, and people feel that they've got no control over their own health.
Yeah.
And they absolutely do. And and I've heard it in previous interviews that you've done with people on this channel. Like every time you eat, you've got an opportunity to feel better or not, depending on what you're eating. And that doesn't mean that everything needs to be very regimented and very controlled, but you have the opportunity to feel well, and your food can contribute to that. So I suppose just to give people a little bit of reassurance around that, it doesn't need to be a horrible conversation. It just needs to be, there's a lot you can do to help yourself feel better. And I think that's one of the messages we really try and get across to people. But from a dietary advice, where do you start? I'm going to come off at this a little bit left of center. I'm going to start not with just nutrition, if you don't mind. So I'm a nutritional therapist, Roisin, and one of the things that means is we look at diet and lifestyle. So when people come and talk to us, we look at what they're eating, but we also look at their sleep, their movement, their relaxation. And I suppose the question is, why do those things matter? Well, they matter very simply because often what you're eating can be dramatically impacted by fatigue or exhaustion from lack of sleep, or a lack of movement, or a lot of movement, or high stress levels, which are really taking their toll, and they will really dictate what you're eating and how you're eating. And I suppose it's very important to look at the big picture. So if somebody comes into me and they've got a fairly good diet, but their sleep is brutal, or they're not getting any weekly activity, physically moving, often that's where we start the conversation, and it helps everything. So sleep is I suppose the first area I want to mention, and I'll get on to the dietary impact on sleep in a moment. But lack of sleep will have the most dramatic impact on how you're feeling and what foods you're choosing. And I suppose, I know some ladies are going to say, well, I'm struggling to sleep. There's lots you can do in other facets of your life to support your sleep at night. And it doesn't start in just the hour before you go to bed. It starts with your first morning light and the food you're consuming during the day. So I think sleep is something that's very important.
Yeah.
And if I start just with, like, the World Health Organization would recommend 7 to 9 hours sleep for most individuals, over 95% of people should be getting that amount of sleep. So what I would suggest to people is start by looking at how much sleep you're actually getting. And, sometimes people will get enough sleep, but they'll wake up still feeling tired, which means the quality of their sleep is not good. So if you're already getting, 7 or 8 hours of sleep and you're waking up feeling tired, then we look at your sleep quality. But if you're not even getting 7 hours of sleep, really that is somewhere to start. And there's a lot that people can do to get that right. And I mean, it's a very simple math equation. If you have to be up at 7 a.m., you need to have lights off by 11:30 to make sure that you're giving yourself time to go to sleep, so that you're then allowing your body to get 7 hours of sleep, not just turn off the lights and expecting to wake up, 6 hours later and think, oh, I'm going to be okay. That doesn't work for people. So I suppose allowing yourself, at least 7.5 hours of sleep opportunity or time to get yourself asleep and be asleep, and longer if you know that I'm one of those people that needs longer. And so if you know you need longer, take longer. And then if you are not getting good quality sleep, what you're eating and drinking during the day will have an impact on that. So I
Yeah, because
suppose,
I'm one of those ladies going through perimenopause. I haven't slept since I'm 42 and I'm 56 now.
oh
I'm
God.
only starting, so I'm one of them women who doesn't get whose sleep deprivation affected me.
So where we'd start with that, Roisin, is, and I mean, I know this is not going to be a popular statement, but if you are somebody who doesn't get good quality sleep, the first thing you need to look at is your caffeine consumption during the day. Now, ask anybody who works with me. The first thing, I do not take things out of people's diet, and I certainly don't take tea or coffee out of people's diet, except if you're not getting good quality sleep. You have to consider the impact that caffeine is having as part of the big picture. So caffeine is hugely important. Caffeine is a chemical, and actually, if any of your listeners are interested, I really like listening to a guy called Matthew Walker. He's the sleep diplomat. He's a neuroscientist, and he is, like, I only was listening to a new podcast yesterday, but there's lots of good podcasts that he's been involved in. He'll give you all the statistics on caffeine. But caffeine has a chemical, what's called a quarter life. So 12 hours after you've had a cup of coffee, approximately a quarter of that is still in your system. Okay.
Right.
So, for example, having an instant cup of coffee, the quantity of coffee in your or caffeine in your coffee is going to vary dramatically. So, an instant cup of coffee is going to have a lot less than if you get a large coffee from a coffee shop, or if you have a fancy machine and you're making your double espresso in your latte in the morning. If you have a large coffee with 2 or 3 shots of coffee, 12 hours later, you still have 1/4 of that in your system. So if you're having a coffee at midday, and I've lots of people who drink coffee in the afternoon, they say, oh, it doesn't affect my sleep, which that means you're caffeinated 24 hours a day, essentially, because if you're having coffee at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you still have 1/4 of that coffee in your bloodstream at 2 o'clock in the morning. So if your sleep quality is not good, that's definitely having an impact. And I would suggest cut it down gradually, and maybe just give yourself a break for a couple of weeks, just to see, as part of the big picture, does it have an effect? The other thing is, at the other end of the day, this is also not going to be popular. I know a huge amount of ladies who like to relax in the evening with a glass of wine. And
Yeah.
we know that alcohol absolutely categorically is impacting sleep quality as well. So I know some people will feel, yes, I'll have a glass of wine and I'll sleep much better. But we know the quality of your sleep, if you're measuring your REM sleep and your deep sleep, they're absolutely impacted by that level of quality is impacted by alcohol. So they're two very simple things, like just with coffee, or caffeinated drinks, whether that's Coke. So I'm not just coffee. If you're drinking all day long, drinking cups of tea, it's much lower dose of caffeine, but there's still caffeine there. If you're drinking Coke at 9 o'clock at night as part of your relaxation, that's going to have an impact. or if you're drinking, you know, Monsters or any of those kind of drinks, any of those energy drinks are all going to have caffeine in them. So you just need to consider, as part of your story, is it a problem? The other thing after that, from a blood sugar perspective, if you're struggling to sleep at night, if you're waking in the middle of the night just for no apparent reason, it can be because you're actually having a blood sugar dip in the middle of the night, and it's called a hypoglycemic dip. And it's the same hormone that if you get that afternoon slump where you're like, oh my God, I'm wrecked. You know, I need a cup of tea and a bar of chocolate. I just need something to keep me going. When that happens in the afternoon, your body produces your hormone cortisol, which is your stress hormone. But cortisol is also involved in the management of blood glucose. So if your blood glucose drops mid-afternoon and your body produces cortisol to help you to regulate your blood glucose, that's one thing you can manage that during the day. If that happens in the middle of the night, it'll also wake you up and you won't really know why. You know, it's different than waking up being worried about something or being stressed about something. So that's something else. So just to try and eat regularly throughout the day. You know, don't be skipping meals during the day, but also don't be having, you know, try and have protein with your meals and your snacks to make sure that your blood sugar is not bouncing around the place during the day. And even if you look at those three things, watch your caffeine intake, watch your alcohol intake, and make sure you try and balance your blood glucose with how you're eating during the day. Those three things may have a dramatic impact on the quality of your sleep. And if you're sleeping better, then your symptoms the next day will feel less severe.
And does magnesium help with sleep?
Oh,
Having enough
magnesium is
magnesium.
absolutely brilliant. Yeah, absolutely.
So
So
magnesium really does help. How can you get magnesium in your diet as well as the supplement?
So magnesium is a mineral that's found wildly in our foods, or widely in our foods, even in green leafy vegetables, and nuts and seeds will be the main sources of them. The challenge we have is if you're a very stressed person, the demand for all of your nutrients is higher. So I always say to people, you know, you could come into me and you'll have the perfect diet. And, you know, there's no such thing as a perfect diet, I suppose. I'm being sarcastic, right? But what that might mean is for you, you might be getting all of your vitamin C and all of your B vitamins and all of your magnesium, etc., right? 100%. However, if you're very stressed or very busy, or if you're going through a stressful period of time, and often perimenopause, menopause alone are very stressful, but it's also a time where your kids are very busy. You possibly have parents who need an extra bit of assistance, or, you know, you're trying to manage more than just yourself. And because of that, the demands on you are high. So the demand on your nutrient requirement is also higher. So instead of needing 100% of all of your nutrients, you might actually need 120% of your nutrients. And also, if at this time you're rushing and racing and your digestive system is a little bit weaker, you may not get 100% of your nutrients from your perfect diet. You might only get, I don't know, 60%. I'm making up numbers here. But every day you're going to have a gap in your nutrient status. And that's where supplements come into their own. But magnesium is really important to help relax your muscles. So if you are somebody who suffers from headaches, if you're somebody who suffers from cramps in your legs or restless legs, magnesium can be really, really important. But magnesium is used in every single muscle in your body to help it relax. So if you think of it from that perspective, every muscle in your body, magnesium is required in over 300 biochemical reactions in your body. So it's used extensively and there's a high demand. And when we're stressed, we obviously need more of it, of course. So nuts and seeds are a really good source. Green leafy vegetables, really good source. It's probably one of the nutrients that I would suggest if you're struggling to sleep and if you've got headaches, if you've any symptoms, I would recommend talking to somebody in a health food shop about taking a magnesium supplement. They're not all the same. Some magnesium supplements are designed to loosen stools, and some of them are designed to cross the blood-brain barrier. You know, so if you take a magnesium oxide, it will give you diarrhea, which is not necessarily what you're looking for. But that's where people will say, oh, I took magnesium and it didn't suit me. And I'd know straight away that the form of magnesium they took wasn't the right one. So, you know, obviously, you know, everybody's not going to be talking to me about them, but if you need professional assistance, talk to somebody in a health food shop don't just pick up something off the supermarket shelf or off the internet unless you know what you're buying, because you're wasting your money and it may not do what you're looking for it to do.
So if you're looking for a magnesium supplement, I have one here. If you're looking for one, make sure that's the one I have. Make sure that it can help you sleep.
So look at the back of that and tell me, look at the ingredients and tell me what type of magnesium it is.
I can't pronounce half of them.
I'd say it says magnesium oxide to the best of my knowledge on that one.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
So magnesium oxide is poorly absorbed. It's a really poorly absorbed form of magnesium. So you're not going to get as much magnesium from that as you would, for example, from magnesium citrate or magnesium glycinate. So magnesium glycinate is the form that I would recommend to people if they have a demand for magnesium. Magnesium citrate, too much of it will cause loose stools, but it's more affordable. So it really depends on what somebody is using it for. If people are very stressed and they know that they need magnesium, magnesium glycinate is probably the best form
for sleep.
If you know, so it's just you have to kind of figure out what you're using it for, and then the dose will depend on how much you need after that.
So magnesium how do I pronounce it?
Citrate.
Yeah. Citrate or citrate is for sleep.
That's a good one as a starting point. It's a very good it's a really well affordable one. Like anybody who would have used Mag 365, that's a magnesium citrate. There's lots of different brands with different, in capsules or tablets, or Mag 365 is in the, you mix it with water. But if it was sleep that somebody's looking for, I'd be recommending magnesium glycinate.
Glycinate, right.
Yeah. Perfect. So the one that you can find in a lot of the health food shops with magnesium glycinate is Prismag. So that's widely available as well. And it will cost a little bit more than the magnesium citrate, but your body will get more magnesium from it. So if that's what you need,
that's sleep. And you get sleep.
You get better sleep, yeah.
We pay I
always do say, Roisin, start with the fundamentals. Like if somebody's drinking coffee all day long, magnesium citrate, we're not talking, it's not a wonder cure. It will do what it's designed to do, but it can't override, when you're wired from too much caffeine, yeah.
So nuts. I remember one time we were on the radio and you said, because I started saying, I've took your advice, Linda, I've started eating nuts for my breakfast cereal and I'm putting them in. And you said, Roisin, you only should have a handful of nuts.
Handful
of nuts. And I was eating too many nuts. And you said a handful of nuts and what you can hold in the palm of your hand and then add the fruit and the into the bowl.
Yeah. So one thing I would say about nuts are brilliant, right? But I know one concern that a lot of women will be concerned about perimenopausal and menopause is that they gain weight.
Yeah.
And they're saying, I haven't done anything differently. But one thing I would always ask people is, we tend to not really snack very well in this country. Our snacks tend to be bigger than they need to be. Yes. So my question always is, are you actually hungry for a snack or are you just looking for a break? Are you eating something just because you're trying to get away from the desk for an hour, or, would you be better off going for a 10-minute walk around the block? Would that help do what you're trying to do instead? So, and with the likes of, nuts and a piece of fruit, if you enjoy them, maybe add them to the end of your lunch, maybe rather than the afternoon, if you're happy to not snack in the afternoon, and then you won't tend to eat as much of them. It's not that I'm saying don't eat them, but I certainly don't have small snacks. I always have bigger snacks than I need. So if you don't need a snack, don't eat it, and eat the nuts as part of your breakfast or as part of your lunch, if that's, or, throw them on top of a curry or something in the evening, and they're delicious. And then, but gauge if you're hungry during the day and if you actually need a snack, because it's very easy to overeat nuts and seeds.
Especially with menopause, weight gain, no matter what you do, if the hormones, no matter what you do, it's not going to take the weight away. You just have to let go with the process. I was one of those women. I put on a huge amount of weight. But now I remember Breda Birmingham telling me, Roisin, your body will rightify itself, and it did. The fluid has, I was flooded with fluid, that's gone as well. And it's not to be killing yourself with exercise and diets. It's just
No.
accepting that it's a symptom as well.
Yeah, but you also have to realize as the hormone levels change, our body's demands change. And I mean, I say that all the time with the height of respect. We are not small men. Our hormones
No.
will dictate that we are women, and our hormones need to be respected. And that's from day one to,
Yeah.
the end. Like, it's not just perimenopause, menopause. And I say this to girls who are like training over the month, like how you can feel even before you hit perimenopause,
Yeah.
when you're in your fertile years, the way you're training or the way you're feeling, if somebody's on a sports team or a camogie team or a hockey team or whatever, the way you feel and the way you train and your strength will vary from week to week over the course of your cycle, let alone when you hit perimenopause and your hormones start jumping around the place. So it's very
Yeah.
important to be aware of that and respect that for yourself, because otherwise you're kind of beating yourself up going, well, why did I not feel as strong this week? Your
Yeah.
hormones are
Hormones
designed
dictate
to feel
everything.
different,
Yeah.
and just be aware of it. And then you can work within that. It's not
Yeah.
that you've done anything wrong or that you haven't trained properly.
The hormones are doing their job, Mother
Yeah,
Nature's role.
absolutely.
And that is too why women's health is completely different from men's health. Because we have hormones and they don't have
Yeah,
the hormones we have for the
yeah,
reproductive system.
yeah,
Diet then. So going to the diet, you always talk about the rainbow diet, Linda. Tell us
yes.
about that.
So the rainbow diet, and I mean, I know the rainbow diet is talking about the variety of different colors in your food, right? And I suppose what I would always try and encourage is, or some of the newer sciences, and I know Dr. Amory would have talked about this when she was talking about her book recently with you as well. But having a variety of different plants in your diet is what it's all about,
Yeah.
right? So if you say to me, oh, I know I should be eating broccoli, it's really good for me. Well, it doesn't matter if you don't like broccoli, but I want to make sure there's a variety of different colors and different plants, because we all have this microbiome of bugs or bacteria in our large intestine. There are trillions of them. There are more of them than we have cells in our entire body. And they play an absolutely huge role in our health overall. Everything from our mood to our production of our neurotransmitters to production of chemicals. They're absolutely huge. They control inflammation. They control unexplained weight gain. They'll affect your sleep. They affect everything, right? But we need to feed all of the different families of good bacteria with different phytochemicals, and phytochemicals are the different colors of our plants. So, for
Right.
example, if you're having 30 different plants every week, chances are, if you're having an apple every day, the apple is great, but what other phytochemicals are you not getting? So, if you're having a red pepper on your dinner today, but you have an orange pepper in your dinner tomorrow, that's going to be a different phytochemical for a different family of bacteria. So there are no right and wrong answers, but over the course of the week, to try and get as much variety in as you can. And what it also does, Roisin, if you think of it in the terms of a week rather than per meal, it gives you a little bit of leeway in those meals that are not as nutrient dense or not don't have the same amount of variety, because you'll have caught yourself on some of the other meals. So, for example, if you had breakfast in the morning and you had a bowl of cornflakes with milk on it, there are, no phytochemicals, there's no color. If you have a bowl of like a nutty granola or a homemade granola, you can add oats or not if you don't want. It depends on what you want to put in there, right? But you could have 5 or 6 different types of nuts, and you could have 2 or 3 types of seeds. You could put natural yogurt, and you could put strawberries and blueberries. So you could have 10 different plants in that plate. So when I'm talking about plants and variety of colors, I'm talking about all fruit, all vegetables, all nuts, all seeds, all whole grains, fresh herbs, beans, lentils, chickpeas, and you can add spices in there as well, but I kind of think spices is cheating a little bit. They're great to add in variety, but when I'm trying to get people to add variety in first, I kind of get them to focus on food. So you can have your perfect breakfast, but if you have the same thing every day, you've lost your variety. It's the same thing with dinner. Somebody would say to me, oh, I have rice and chicken stir fry, and I had peppers and carrots and onions. Absolutely brilliant. But if you have the same dinner tomorrow and the next day, over the course of the week, you're not going to have huge variety. Whereas if the next day you have a bean chili with 3 different types of beans and different vegetables and tomato sauce and courgettes, and it's going to be a lot more variety in there. And then you put an extra portion into the freezer and you have it again next week. So it just means that over the course of the week, you're getting 30 or even more different plants in your diet. And all of those different colors from those different phytochemicals are going to add benefits to different parts of your microbiome. And they in turn then will support your health going forward.
And do you always say, if you're changing your diet, don't take anything away. Always
Yes.
add in first. And I remember you saying that because I was trying to get away from the mayonnaise of my salad. And you said, Roisin, add a little bit of hummus on. I know, and had the hummus on. And I remember going away from the radio station that day, went into Dunn's, bought the hummus. And I did that. I gradually, because I said, I don't like chickpeas, I don't like hummus. But what I did is I acquired the taste by adding in slowly.
Yeah, or even, people kind of think, oh, a salad needs to be just boring lettuce with tomatoes and cucumber. But if you have a salad dressing with extra virgin olive oil, and you can choose, then you can have like a balsamic vinegar or an apple cider vinegar or lemon juice, whatever flavors you prefer. You can add a little bit of honey or a little bit of mustard to that. It's quite easy to mix up something. And if you give that a shake and sprinkle it over your salad, you're going to have a lovely, fresh taste, but your extra virgin olive oil is going to give it lovely, you're going to get your good fatty acids in there, and it's going to help you feel fuller for longer, because by adding fat into your salad, it's going to give you a sense of satiety with your food that you're not going to get if you don't have any fat there. So it's really important to add those, people would think they're the bad bits. They're not. They're the bits that help you feel more satisfied at the end of your meal, because rarely is your dinner or your lunch going to be the problem. It's normally when you're finished your food and you're like, that didn't really hit the spot. What will I have next? And you go for the cup of tea and a full packet of biscuits or a tub of Pringles with a glass of wine. That's where you get caught. It's not, the meals rarely, sometimes obviously they are, but that's not really where I tend to start. If we make the meals nice and nourishing and filling and satisfying, people tend to pick at the other stuff. And that other stuff, it's not a problem occasionally. And I don't like this good and bad food, but you're not going to nourish yourself if you're living on rubbish the whole time. But they're designed to be very easy to eat. They're designed to overeat. They're not designed for your health. So they're designed for, food companies like to make us eat a lot of their food because they make more money. And that's just the fact of the matter. Don't get me wrong, we all have them in the house. But we're also very lucky because we live in Ireland. We have lots of small producers making good quality ingredients. So if you can't do everything from scratch, which in an ideal world I'd love us all to do, right? But if you can't do everything from scratch, there are good food producers making good quality ingredients that you can use to supplement. And if you're having a big dish of bolognese with a whole lot of vegetables through it, and you're using a good quality jar of sauce, it would be cheaper to make your own, let's put it that way. But you will get away with that occasionally because most of the time it's not going to be riddled with extra ingredients. Whereas if you're looking at the highly processed, cheaper stuff, the list of ingredients is longer and not always as nutritious. So just, pick your battles a little bit.
And even just try and maybe cook from scratch, get into the habit, even one night a week, as you say, add in before you take away. Maybe 1 night or 2 nights a week or 3 nights, cook in batch and then freeze. Yeah,
Roisin, I have to admit the game changer is making a plan and trying to stick to it. And that plan might be, on a Sunday, while you're prepping veg for your Sunday dinner, whatever that is, you're actually just peeling the rest of the bag of carrots, because you know that when you come home, chopping up a carrot or, taking a handful of, say, a head of cabbage. If I come in and it's 6 o'clock and this kid's hungry, I'm not going to start prepping everything from scratch, because nobody's going to survive the hunger that's going on in the house. Whereas if you've got prepped vegetables in the fridge, it's an assembly job and it takes 15 minutes to get
Yeah.
dinner on the table. So even doing that much, but if you know in your head, well, I'm going to be home late on Tuesday, I'm not going to be able to do everything from scratch, but that's there. Or you make something like an omelette. I mean, it doesn't need to be, everything with a full roast dinner. You can make very nutritious meals very simply with simple food, but you need to have some idea of what the simple food is going to be. So
Yeah.
you have the ingredients in the house and you're ready to go.
The
And the
meal
freezer
plan.
is brilliant.
The meal
Freeze.
plan. Preparing. And you also say, you taught me know who you're shopping for
Yeah.
and who you're cooking for.
Yeah.
Because I remember you telling me that years ago. That's really important. And that's all about preparing for your shopping list, your meal
Yeah.
plan, your
Yeah.
shopping list, and then
Yeah.
your menu for the week.
Yeah. And, some people would say, like, I will kind of do, when I say a meal plan, it's not down to the nth degree,
No,
right? It's,
no,
it's not to try and make life miserable for
no.
yourself, but it actually frees up so much headspace later in the week when it comes to, in after work on a Tuesday or a Wednesday or whatever it is, and you're like, oh my God, what day is it? What food can I make? Having an idea of, well, I've got pre-cooked rice in the fridge. I can make an egg fried rice type of stir fry because I've no meat, or you don't want to use meat or whatever. Or I've got three tin of beans, so I can make some kind of a chili very quickly out of that. Knowing that you've got those cheat ingredients for the days when you're not prepared will be brilliant, but knowing roughly what you're going to have for the week and having dinners in the freezer if that works for you, or having vegetables prepped if that works for you, you really need to figure out what works for you and get a plan in place just to make your life a little bit easier.
And two, it's about really just as you say, it's when we're planning on what we're going what we're planning to eat, who we're cooking for,
Yeah.
and why we are shopping, and
Yeah.
also to make our food taste nutritious, tasty, and enjoyable.
Oh, Roisin, it's so important. I mean, and it kills me. I've had a number of ladies in kind of struggling with menopause
Oh yeah.
symptoms, and like they have no. I had one lady, and I'd say she could have been the very first lady that came to me for menopause advice, and she was she had been trying to lose weight all of her life, and she was having basically fat-free food to try and keep her weight down. And I would, like, we didn't do any tests with her at the time, and I've tested a lot of people since, but I would suspect she was chronically depleted in essential fatty acids. And she had all of the symptoms of, she had dry skin, she had vaginal dryness, her hair, she had itchy scalp, she had all the symptoms of everything when you're kind of have low good fats. Her memory was poor, her cognition, she was just, and it's really important. And like I was trying to explain to her, she was making meals for her family, but she was having like a dry chicken fillet with her dinner instead of eating the same as her family. And I had to kind of say to her, you need to add in the good essential fatty acids into your diet. And I gave her the selection of what they were, but we had to put in supplements as well to try and manage the symptoms. But she had been years afraid to eat good fats because she thought they were going to make her fat, when in fact she had put so much pressure on herself. Probably the stress associated with how she was eating was doing more damage than, putting, and good fats were never going to do damage anyway. But
Can you give
to
us an
just try and put that
example
stuff
of,
in.
sorry, can you give us an example of what some good fats are?
Yeah. So when we're talking about essential fatty acids, we're talking about omegas. So omega 3, 6, and 9 are kind of the main ones that we would talk about in food. The best dietary source of omega 3s are oily fish. And the only oily fishes that really cut the mustard of being good sources are salmon, herrings, anchovies, sardines, and mackerel. Smash, yeah. So they're quite limited, right? So what that means is, like, a tin of organic wild salmon is going to be a really good source of good fats. And they like omega 3 contains EPA and DHA. So they're really important for your cardiovascular health and really important for your brain health. So if you look at supplements, even for a baby, for, fish oils for a baby, they're always going to be DHA because we're trying to support the growth of their little brain at that point. But if somebody's struggling from a cognitive perspective in menopause, and they're not getting enough good fats in their diet, you'd be kind of going, I wonder, are they depleted in DHA? And it would make perfect sense. So that's something you could look at. If somebody doesn't eat fish, I would genuinely recommend a good fish oil supplement. If you're a vegetarian or vegan or whatever, you can get vegan sources of them as well. But the omega-6s and omega-9s are also really essential. And what essential means is your body can't make them. We have to consume them.
Right.
However, with omega-6, we tend to, the Western diet, we tend to, sorry, a piece of hair annoying me there, so we're sorry. We tend to consume a lot in our diet naturally.
Yes.
Even down to the fact that if you're eating a lot of, say, chicken and the chicken has been fed corn, we tend to get omega-6 through the food chain anyway. So omega-6 will be in most foods, like rapeseed oil will be an omega-6. Any of the vegetable oils will be omega-6. Omega-9 are things like your olive oils and your avocados. So when I'm recommending to people to eat good sources of good fatty foods, I'd be recommending oily fish a number of times a week if they can. And then on a daily basis, you can include things like extra virgin olive oil in your salad dressings. I recommend people cook with olive oil. I recommend olives, avocados a couple of times a week. And then nuts and seeds are an absolute super source. Now, some people will say, you know, if you're vegetarian or vegan, you can convert, you know, from the vegetarian sources down to get your EPA and DHA through the vegetarian sources. You can absolutely, but it's not as, they're not the same kind of little, when I was talking about EPA and DHA, they don't produce those naturally. So you have to do a little conversion in your body, which relies on other processes that are not always that efficient. So if you suffer from any symptoms where you feel that you've low good fats, I would recommend getting a supplement to try and boost those levels, because you can really, any aches and pains, dry skin, cognitive function, can all benefit from, like, every single cell in your body needs good fats. So it would really benefit from having those good dietary sources in there.
Well, Linda Murry from Beoga Nutrition, as always, you've taught me so much over the years since 2017, 18, with your vast knowledge and experience of bringing nutritional value into our bodies, especially the female bodies for our female health. And, you know, you taught me, as I said at the beginning of the program, to actually know what I eat, how I eat, and when I eat, as I've said in all through the show. You've taught me to always make it tasty, make it enjoyable, and good food can be tasty and enjoyable.
Oh, absolutely. It's too miserable. Life's too short to not enjoy your meals. Have to enjoy them.
So just tell our listeners before you go, Linda, how you're based in Kilkenny, in the centre of the town, in Parliament Street. Can you tell our listeners how they can get in touch with you and Jenny at Beoga Nutrition?
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you, Roisin, for that. So Jenny and I are both nutritional therapists, and we do specialise in, or work a lot with, ladies with digestive issues, thyroid issues, and female health issues, everything from PMS the whole way to menopause. And Jenny specializes in low mood as well, so mood and anxiety, those kind of areas. And we can find us on Instagram or Facebook at Beoga Nutrition, or our website is beoganutrition.ie. And if anybody, I mean, you'll see it on our website also, Roisin, if anyone is interested but they're not sure, give us a shout, give us a call. We offer a 10-minute free consultation to have a chat and see if we're the right fit for you, because, you know, we're not for everybody, and that's absolutely perfect, but we can, our goal is to help people to feel better, and we tend to, we're getting some really nice results with people, helping them to achieve that within their current lifestyle. So, you know, if somebody's interested, give us a shout and we'll let you know how we can help, or what it is exactly we can do.
And as you've also taught me through the years that, and everybody talks about the menopause, we're all individual, it's an individual experience. Again, our dietary requirements are all very individualized as well.
Yeah, it's very important. Just because your sister or your best friend is taking a supplement and finding it great, it doesn't necessarily mean it'll work for you. So we figure out what you need and what your demands are, and we put a plan in place for that. You know, and the menopause, I suppose, Roisin, just to say, I know some people, there's a whole big debate, and it's great that people are talking about the menopause now, but you shouldn't feel that just because you're menopausal age, you're going to, you're going to suffer. It shouldn't be just because your hormones, and like, even if you're somebody that can't take HRT, there's lots you can do. Like, even when I was talking about the omega-3 deficiency, that alone, whether you're menopausal or not, will make you not feel as good as you can feel. So if you correct something like that, you will feel better. So just putting some strategies in place and having a plan can often help people to feel a lot better in themselves. And then, that will help their long-term health, as you mentioned.
The menopause isn't, and perimenopause and menopause, when we know what's happening to our bodies, it isn't all negative experiences.
Not at all.
It can be a most wonderful experience as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and especially when we know how nutrition and a good diet can really help manage those menopause hormonal symptoms too.
Yeah, there's lots you can do to not feel like you have no control, or that, I did a conversation with a lady this morning, and she said to me, I'm feeling so much better. And her two things that she had done when I last spoke to her is she started walking every day with a friend of hers, and she had gone to a yoga class. And because she was feeling better in herself and more confident in herself, that allows other changes to come into play. So don't expect yourself to be superhuman. That's not necessary. But just take one small step. So if it's only one thing that you do, every month, one small step will make a huge change long term.
And add in before you take away.
Absolutely.
Linda Murry from Beoga Nutrition, thank you for taking the time to speak to Confident Women Ireland today.
You're very welcome, Roisin. Thanks for having me.